Good morning, my YouTube constituents. I'm on the highway again. Here we are. I have a thought this morning about the Jesus Christ, and it is this. Christ was a carpenter, and what a beautiful symmetry that creates. If you know anything about carpentry or working with wood or trade work in general, you understand that it is many simple things, simple tasks, layered and layered and layered, and each one needs to be given a very tedious attention to detail. You need to have a serious attention to detail at every single step through all these different layers, so that at the end the product looks good. You know, whether you're building furniture or you're building a house or whatever you're doing. And I believe, and that's what I was thinking about. Christ was a carpenter. Think about a carpenter. A carpenter is an honest man. A dishonest carpenter cannot build a chair that will bear the weight of a man. It would fall apart because a dishonest carpenter cuts corners. This phrase keeps coming in my head. How you do anything is how you do everything. And I really believe that, and I think about my dogs this morning. I took my dogs for a walk and their paws were muddy, and my wife was complaining there was like dirt in the house, and I was like, okay, you know what? She's right. Their paws are dirty. I took them in the backyard. I filled up a bucket with water, and then I went and washed their paws. And I took an extra couple of minutes because I was really trying to get each little piece of dirt from between their toes, because I knew that's going to end up on the couch later. And it occurred to me that I could probably just get 90% of it. Just 90% of the dirt, get all the big bulky stuff and then move on. But I thought there's going to be a fine powder of sand in our sofa if I don't get every last bit of it. And so that's how I do that one task. I'm trying to be on, and I'm not perfect. It's like I have shortcutted so many things in life. That's why I know this and believe this now, and that's why I try to practice this. And it's an effort. It's practice. I try to do each and everything that I do to the best of my ability, and do right by God. And I really see it that way, that by properly washing my dog's paws, I am glorifying God. And it's kind of a funny thought, but I mean it, and by properly taking care of my daughter and cleaning our house and greeting my wife and asking about her day, like all of these little things end up being the really big things over the long term. And so Christ, being God, I think probably paid a supreme amount of attention to detail and really mastered his craft. And it's a big thing. It's a known thing in the Bible that there's like this gray area where it talks about Christ in his childhood, and then it says, and I can't remember the exact words, but it's like it's a line something like, and then he grew in, talking about Christ, and then he grew in stature and favor with God and favor with man. I might be missing a couple of things in there, but it's a short line that basically accounts for like a decade or more of his life as he's growing up and becoming a man, until he starts preaching, and then he comes back in, and then and then we know a lot more from when Christ started doing his true work. But in that time that sentence represents, he was working as a carpenter, and I like to imagine that he was a student, a practitioner of carpentry, and that he gave the same attention to detail to every single step of building some table, and being sure that every leg is plumb and smooth and symmetrical, and that there's a perfect fit when you insert the leg, because he spent the extra minutes and hours perfecting the pieces before trying to draw them together. And that is how he treats each and every one of us. We have all these tiny details. I have little things in my life that I'm not doing well enough, and Christ is coaxing me into the correct path. And sometimes he needs to be more aggressive, and I need to fail, and I need to be let down severely to learn a lesson and to be corrected and to grow into the man that I need to become more like Christ. And sometimes it's a gentle coaxing, and he puts somebody in my life who loves and supports me and changes me in a slight way to make me more like Christ. And he's doing that to every single one of us all the time. And if that's not what a carpenter does, then I don't know what is. And that's pretty beautiful, I think. And so yeah, we should all try to live that way in every single facet of our life, not just when we're at church, but to glorify God through every single facet of our lives. And then here's a parting thought. I was thinking it's kind of funny. What did Jesus build as a carpenter? Was he building chairs and tables? I think probably yes. Probably it was furniture. Maybe he helped build a couple of houses, but I think they had nice furniture back then. They didn't have any IKEAs, so it was like a lot of work went into furniture building. And I'm thinking, like, so if a carpenter today puts a real amount of work and honesty and the time, and he uses the right materials to make a good table, that table legitimately could last hundreds of years if it's taken care of. That's kind of bananas. The furniture can, similar to buildings or works of art, it can outlive us. It can outlive the person who makes it. It's just kind of crazy to think about that, like, that table's going to go on serving somebody, serving a community, serving a family, who knows, wherever it goes, that table's going to do things. And the carpenter who did honest work in his life, he's gone, and he's not actively participating in the world anymore, but his creation still is. And I think that's what God wants from each of us, is to act in such a way, be honest through our actions in such a way that even after we're gone from this earth, we can still have a lasting impact, and we can still help to bring people closer to God and to glorify God after we're gone. But the funny part that I was thinking is, like, if Christ was this, he's this perfect person, and I assume he was a perfect craftsman who put a perfect amount of detail and attention into his crafts. Is there some table someplace that Jesus built? Like, is there? And maybe there is. I didn't research it. But like, how crazy would that be? You walk into somebody's house and they're like, "Oh yeah, this side table right here, God himself created this side table." What a thing. I'm sure that they probably would be like in the Vatican, or some I don't know, some fancy schmancy library or something. Who knows? But that's a crazy thought, to think that there could be a piece of furniture someplace that somebody has and uses that was built by God himself. But anyway, let's try to be honest in our lives. Let's try to think about the areas and the tiny little tasks in our lives that we're neglecting to put the time and effort into, where we know that maybe we should be putting more time and effort. And let's try to meditate today on how we can put more attention into those things and to glorify God through every little thing that we do. God bless y'all. Godspeed.